know.
I follow a bunch of Twitches I don't... Oh, no, these are recommended. I was going to say, it's like, I don't remember following these.
Yeah. This isn't the thing that I'm doing.
And Gambles.
Well, we should be up and running now, hopefully. Should be going. Let's see. Yeah, we're live now. Hi, everyone. We're here to play some more Icewind Dale while we talk about random stuff with our good friend Liam.
Hello.
Liam sometimes DMs for us on our podcast. He does a lot of our art and layout designs, everything here, all our layout here. He's designed. He designed our whole logo and stuff. Couldn't do a lot of the podcast without Liam. So thanks again for joining us this week, Liam.
No problem. You forgot that I'm also like 70% of the spoken words in any recording.
Yeah. Like 73, I think, when we did the math.
I was going to say, you could still do the podcast without me. There'd just be less podcast.
Yeah. A lot. Like, we get through things so much quicker. No, it's so much fun editing your stuff because like there's so many of your jokes where like if I'm the DM, I just have to miss them because like I'm so busy doing other stuff. So it's fun to like edit because I get to see your jokes again. Like sometimes it hurts me to cut them. Other times I just leave them in because I find them so funny. But sometimes I'm just like, that's just like it's because you make a joke and then like I'm not paying attention and I don't laugh. It's just like I don't have to like go and record a laugh and stick a laugh in there.
Just like ha ha ha. Just have a permanent little like polite chuckle recording you can slap in. Yeah,
the Liam chuckle. It's just a mix of our three laughs.
Everyone just goes ha ha ha. Because I have Connor's bird shriek from when.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I have that just like set aside from Strange Aeons, and I haven't run anything since to use it in. But
sometimes for recordings, like if someone is like using Roll20 for all their rolls, I'll grab a dice sound from one of us, and I'll just like copy and paste that to different areas because it's just nicer.
It was, I think it was like the first or second episode. I'm not sure if it made it into the episode, but Kimple had just grabbed like his whole box of dice and he's like, "Here, Connor, for your Foley work." And went, shh. Well, he was still using that shit mic, and so it sounded like he was just smashing.
It was awful.
Cans.
I picked up something for Foley work for next time we play Hell's Horses.
Ooh, coconuts.
Yeah, my daughter thinks it's the coolest thing ever.
It is. It's a fun thing.
I did it for her, and she's like, "What is that? Sounds like horses." Because she's big into horses right now. So.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Kids either go to horses or to automobiles in some capacity. You go trains, construction things, and then Transformers, or you go horses. Being that girl who eats her own hair. Ooh.
So,
where are we? Is this where we left off?
Yeah, so we failed to find the evil thing in the Veil of Shadows that was destroying the town. So Arundel is like, I need something called the Heartstone Gem. I can use that to scry, and we can find out what's hurting us. And that's at this temple. It's called the Temple of the Forgotten God. So I'm there now to try to get this, see if they will give me this thing. And this is an Etten. A Veerberg. My bad. It's a Veerberg. So it's like, I think it's kind of like a Fearbolg, to be honest. I think they're pretty equivalent in size-wise.
In my head, Fearbolg are like the size of orcs. They're bigger than humans.
Oh, really? Okay, so these are bigger. These guys are like 10, 12 feet tall.
I guess, yeah, they're supposed to be like up there with Goliaths, and I guess Goliaths are 10 feet tall.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
Probably Goliath, actually.
In the older editions?
Not that I think they're a newish thing.
Yeah, they're cool.
So this is a guard, and he's running away because some bad priests came, so he's running away. And this guy held and like hid, so now he's.
Tell me about the bad priests. Are they gnomes? Are they gnomes who keep doing shitty things to a hapless young half-orc?
There's not enough bad gnomes, in my opinion.
I think it's because they're so light and bubbly. I got to play some bad gnomes on Saturday night with one of my groups. just like I say bad gnomes. They were like slaves who broke out of like a little like work camp that the Duragar had set up.
Okay.
But it was like I emphasize with them because they're traveling with like a merchant from the city. They're like, it's like slavery, but it's different. It's contracts. It's like indentured work for a time to earn a position in the city proper. And then these people are like, our contracts are unfair, and no one speaks Gnomish, and so they're just like yelling, and then they start killing their guards, and the whole party backed up, not having anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then they walk by and they go, they just kind of wait patiently until someone casts tongues on them, and they go, we are taking your boats. And they get the boats they had and just left. And they're like, I liked them. They seemed cool. It's like they did just brutalize a bunch of guards instead of walking away. Break contract and run.
I've only come across like a bad gnome once as a DM. Like, it was in it was in Curse of the Crimson Throne.
Oh yeah.
It was like when you guys came back to Corvosa after going out to find the sword.
Yeah.
The king of the who took over the top island of Corvosa. There's like that guy who took over that top area, like the crime lord. He had like a gnome barbarian as like his executioner. So like this gnome barbarian was running around with this big axe, and you guys killed him. It was great.
God, I don't remember that. There's
so much. Yeah, there's so much of like that.
Because did we do all 6 books?
Yeah, we did. We finished Curse of the Crimson Throne. The ending, we kind of like because
it was an open world like sandbox of the city, but we just rushed to the palace, right?
You guys were there's so many of you in the group, and I was bad at adding to the encounters to make them harder. So you guys kind of just like bum rushed the end. It was like really quick. You guys just got through so much content in a short amount of time that like I don't have good memories of it because we got through it so quick.
I remember there's a moment we fought a dragon. We legitimately fought, I think, like a black dragon.
It was an undead dragon.
Was he undead?
No, he wasn't undead. He wasn't undead. You're right. He wasn't.
I don't remember how we got out of that. I think I might have like missed this session of like the second half of the fight or something.
You did, I think.
I just remember that it was going bad. It was when the joking thing with like the rope trick happened, and then it's just like, and then we were done with it. And then we went off to I think it was a Shoanti thing out in the desert.
Shoanti was before that. Shoanti on the way to the
And we did the like bullet challenge of like the sunrise. We all had to hold up that pillar.
Yeah.
Tyler died.
That was where Tyler died. That was an intense fight.
And then we earned the nickname Shit Dick for me and Jay because of one weird thing that got said that no one dropped. And then that was the session, Connor. We have that photo of my brother with the the pizza bag on his head. That was his Facebook profile for like 9 years until his wedding. He got a better photo of himself. And then we just got back to the city. Jay had that cloak that let him, like, he could become a bat. And so we had Argyle doing, like, workings for us in the inner city, a guard we'd befriended. Jay was scouting, and we would just, like, rush in, kill things, hide back in the corners. And so I feel like you also just took a bunch of encounters out and said, you guys are going to make it to the castle. No problem.
Yeah, I think we skipped a bunch of stuff, too. But Argyle... Oh, I'll fix that.
How's that? Are now louder, maybe? Potentially.
Let's hope that works a bit better.
Hopefully.
It's weird that like I hear it fine when we do the test run. I just don't know what the change is. I don't get it.
You know what? I leaned back a bit. Let me saddle up in here. Maybe that'll help.
All right, let's know if Liam's a bit better. When you guys got back to the city, you guys met with, I think there's some clandestine stuff happening, and then you guys ended up meeting up with Argyle, and Argyle got assassinated. That's how I started ramping some stuff up.
Know that the stakes are rising when the guy who is taking care of everything for us is dead.
Yeah, I liked Argyle. I'll bring him back one day, I think, in something.
I feel like whatever we do after Kingmaker, it could be very fun to revisit Curse of the Crimson Throne, since we could do like a truncated version of it. Since you have like your notes for it, we all know it roughly, but not enough to like ruin anything. And just like do it in like 25 episodes. Just give each book 5 episodes and just like cut it down. And that'd be
kind of fun, actually.
Like, because I think one of the biggest tragedies, and like I know it doesn't bug Connor, but like it bugs me a little bit, because like he brought me to your game.
Yeah.
And like his character survived from the start of book 1 to the end of book 6, and none of us can remember that character's name. I think that's such like a shitty thing.
It's Cruel.
Cruel.
I said it to him.
Did you find the sheets?
I did find the sheets. So I said it to him. I'm like, "Oh, your guy's name is Cruel." He's like, "That kind of sounds right." I'm like, "No, it is right, you asshole." Like,
well, because you'd have Hero Labs folders for them.
I have the Hero Labs still from when you guys finished.
Send me original Pylon sheet. I would love to see.
I don't know if I have original Pylon. I might have got rid of him.
Fair. He died a hero.
Yeah, exactly. Because he died. I don't know if I kept him. I'll have to take a look back.
What was my sword called?
Your sword was like the sword of the adventure. It was I don't even remember what it was called, but
I'm gonna look it up.
It was important to the whole event.
Because I remember you had nudged me to take fighter levels, starting my bad habits of multiclassing, so I could have it. Ooh,
yeah.
Cerithial.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Oh my god. This might have like lodged itself. We have an NPC called Sereth. This might have been something that's like lodged in my brain.
Isn't that weird when you like realize that?
Yeah.
Like,
it's also funny to see how a sentient weapon has something called ego instead of just an alignment.
Yeah. I forgot that I get ambushed in this place. This is a cool little dungeon.
It seemed neat, especially when you come into it and the guard is like a cowardly, like, retreating thing. It just makes you go like, oh, he's huge and he's scared. It's a good tone setter. Hey, it's Franklin. You remember. The sword is not Franklin. Julia.
Oh, right.
Man. Every time I go back, it's usually something like Skid says that makes me want to go back and learn what the fuck Thaco is. Makes me want to vomit. It's just...
I'm glad I never dealt with Thaco. Like, that's just so stupid.
My job at Critical Hit would be like akin to an accountant if it wasn't 5th edition.
Yeah.
Like if I had to like do all that. Yes, Franklin is a nice name. It's just not the name of my magic sword. It's Cerithial.
Yeah,
although
you landed the killing blow.
I got to end the campaign.
Yeah.
My dumbass. Named after the pylon out in the L-Wing parking lot. The lone pylon that was blocking everyone from coming in because it was under construction for like 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness. So, something I'm noticing that they did really well in this, which cracks me up. We were talking about the graphics last time.
Mm-hmm.
The like isometric angle lets them do reflections in water really well. But like the water texture's surprisingly good.
Yeah, I've never really like. But yeah, right. That water reflection is pretty good. Like,
it is because they could have built it as like a static element because the camera can't move.
Yeah.
I learned recently how they do like how like mirrors and stuff work in video games, where every surface has like a cube reference, and depending on what angle you're looking at, it references like the reverse end of the cube.
Oh, okay.
That's how like in like Spider-Man, if you're at a shiny building, it'll show you stuff, but if you turn around, it might not be there because it's just guessing at what would kind of be there based on what's behind it.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It's so impressive that we figured this shit out.
Yeah. We, well,
Not
I
us.
can't take all the credit. I watched a YouTube video about people who make video games. You did do that, Julia. Julia just said in the chat that she named one of her characters after her birth control.
Yeah, I read that. That's like naming your character after something like. There's that famous line, like the most beautiful phrase in English language is cellar door. Cellar door. And if you go and find the quote and where it's from like an interview, and there's a big explanation for it. It's not like he just dropped it as like cellar door is beautiful. It's like no, it's like when he's like figuring out names, like, when he's going to name his fictional places, he'll find like a cool phrase in English like cellar door, and if you just say it like 100 times over and over again, it'll start to morph, and it's like cellar door is a beautiful name for an elvish city. That was the whole thing. It's not the way it's presented in Donnie Darko is not how it was. Theirs is more romantic.
Exactly.
His is just like you just like say until the meaning is gone. Like we've all done that as kids, where we say the same thing 50 times.
It is a fun like thought exercise. I've had you've probably experienced this too, like working sometimes from pre-written stuff. You don't have to worry too much about naming things, but like I can see just right over beside me here, I've got a little like whiteboard on a stand, where like I realized I was like, oh, I don't have a name for if they ask me about this guard they're about to meet, if they want any more details beyond that, or like if they do this, they might meet this person tonight, and it's like. The book's all the way over there. I'd rather just make up a name, and so just like I have a name here. It's Airamal, because there is an envelope near here that's sitting by my printer, and so I was like, oh, airmail. I did that thing, and it's like I took it's AIIRMAL. Literally just took the I out of mail and slapped it in, so it's like Airamal. It's like cool. I've got my my elven judge.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's when we were pulling names for our last. I have a bookcase right up here. When we were pulling names for our last Hell's Horses, I just looked up there. That's why we got some awful names. I almost named the guy Frank Herbert because I got Dune sitting up there. I'm like Frank Herbert. Nope, can't do it.
Have we talked about Dune?
I need to read the book.
Okay,
I've never seen the movies. I have a vague idea of it, but I don't. I need to get into that world more.
I tried to read Dune once in college, once after college, and I tried over quarantine. Yeah. And I will finish a book out of spite. Like I'll start something and be like, I don't really like it, and but I'm already in it and I'll do it. I can't do it. I've read some of
You've said that to me before.
I've read the Book of the New Sun, which is Gene Wilde making shit like it's ridiculous. It's awful. It's a great story, but like it's written to make it hard to read. And I got through that. Can't get through Dune. And I watched the movie with like the old one from whenever the fuck not the made for TV one, but the one with Twin Peaks in it. What's his fucking name?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. The old
and
one.
It's such a gem. It's such a weird psychedelic movie without having anything visually that is psychedelic. It's there's a moment right off the bat where there's like, I hope they put in the new one, because again it's a cool concept, but it really doesn't translate visually.
Yeah,
they have these force fields that you can only get through by moving incredibly slowly. And so this fight where they're both like, and then it stops and they just slowly like, who can race like without going so fast that they get pushed back, but without going so slow that they don't do it. It's like, and it's so cool. And in a book, I remember reading it being like, that was neat. It feels tense, even though it's like a training thing. Yeah. And then you see it in the movie, and like there's this amazing, weird visual effect for the shields, and it's like, yeah, no, this didn't need to be in the visual representation of this. They could have just had swordplay training, but they're like, they immediately jump into going like, how many of the weird things Frank fucking Herbert said, can we put into as many sentences while we can have these famous actors saying them? Sting is in the movie. Fucking Sting from The Police.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I think that the big thing, though, is that, like, the 70s seem like people were experimenting with art a lot more. Like, even like music and stuff, like, in the 60s and 70s, they were, like, really exploring, like, what an electric guitar could do, because they were so new, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know, it's just a different, like, experience to be, like, movies and art were merging more than they do now.
Clashing sometimes. There's some real stinkers out of the 70s and 80s. Or 60s and 70s. I personally have the belief that there is so much gold in weird 80s movies.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because, like, I got to watch, like, Predator and Alien and stuff like that way too early in my life. And then was just nurtured on Star Wars and dumb shit like that.
Yeah, I watch a lot of movies way too early in life as well. And I'm a better person for it. No. Yeah, Predator's a big one.
Julie, don't feel bad. I don't think anyone's ever read Heart of Darkness. I don't think anyone's actually ever read it. Unless someone made you read it, Heart of Darkness is just a thing people assume everyone else is going to have the decency never to bring up. So you don't pretend like you know anything.
What one is that one? What's that one about? Is that
there's a plane crash. It's like The Hatchet, but not for young adults.
Okay. Because I love The Hatchet. The Hatchet was my jam.
The Hatchet was Gary Paulson was a stellar writer, and I wish I hadn't been made to read The Hatchet. I wish I'd been able to read The Hatchet on my own. So I'd appreciate it so much more.
We had The Hatchet read to us in school.
He's in Africa. The plane crashes in Africa, I think, or in some way he's stuck in like the forest, the dense part of Africa. And again, that's all I know about it because no one actually has read Heart of Darkness. Anyone who says they have is lying. Like anyone who says they've read the Great Gatsby.
My wife likes The Great Gatsby a lot. She told me I can't watch the movie until.
I'm told it's a good book, but like, I guess they alternated what years in school needed to read it, and I read the Chrysalids instead. And so I just don't know anything the fuck about it. So,
we talked last week. I showed you my copy of The Hobbit. So in grade 9, our teachers had the choice of doing The Hobbit, which like 75% of the English teachers did, or Eric's teacher does the fucking Chrysalids. Fuck my life. Like, I was doing other people's Hobbit homework for them without even rereading the book. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what Bilbo did. And then, like, fucking my teacher's like, yeah, read the Chrysalids. No! I want an easy year.
The author also wrote Day of the Triffids, which I love so much more. It's the first book I read that had, like, the real, like, Last Man on Earth vibe, which is something I do love. But the Chrysalids was so neat because it was the first time and the only time in school where we were breaking something down for its symbolism.
Yeah.
And it made sense because the book written based on symbolism. And so it was a cool book to learn in school. And just like little things like, and like watching the scope of these kids. And like, I just remember thinking that they call it Sealand and not Zealand because it's like, who would use a Z there kind of thing. It's like, of course they would think that. That's crazy. They must be like, there must be something lost in translation in our telepathy. It's like, you could just never believe it was called New Zealand. And it's just, I just remember growing up religious, knowing that like the stuff you hear about like the Salem witch trials, and you read the Chrysalids, and it's like, oh, this little girl's worried because she has a 6th toe, and the kid's just like, well, yeah, now my dad has to murder you for God.
So, the Chrysalids really remind me of this Robert Heinlein book. It's called Orphans of the Sky, and it's like it's a huge colony ship that's like supposed to be going from Earth to a faraway planet.
Yeah.
And something happens along the way, and the people on the ship, it's been so many years they don't know that they're on a ship, And the lower decks are where regular humans live, and then the upper decks, because of the radiation and stuff, are where the mutants live. And so if you have a mutant kid, you throw them to the upper decks. So there's people with like 2 heads and weird mutations on the upper decks, and it's all about how like the mutants take over the ship, and it's really cool.
I love that stuff.
Shit!
There's something about like so much of like my best memories of sci-fi are in the area of like, and we've talked about this. You've never played KOTOR, but like the older sci-fi games where like everything was a little like dark and gritty just by the fact that they had like 5 polygons to work with.
Yeah.
And it's like you have stories like that have like this like bleak setting, and then you've got like the first Mass Effect where you're just in like a dingy spaceship that got abandoned. There's like a spider demon queen, and it's like she's like, "Don't kill my babies," and you're like, "I have to. I'm sorry." It's like, this is so spooky. It's like the best sci-fi has that like weird, just like, ugh. That's why I like the horror stuff, the alien and all that, because you get that like that little bit of like desperation. Mm-hmm. And when you've got like in that book, you've got a ship that is just lost at sea for so long that they don't know
they're a ship. Water. Yeah, because they have no windows. The only windows in the cockpit, and that's like at the front of the ship. That's where the mutants live, and it's crazy.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I like Heinlein a lot. He's like a very popular writer in my house. My mom loved him. Got my brother into him. One of my Robert A. Heinlein. He's the guy that did Starship Troopers.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
That is like a weird tonal shift.
He had some. So
that.
Did you read Lord of the Flies in high school?
I did.
So he didn't like Lord of the Flies. He thought it was very anti-human, because it's in Lord of the Flies. The big theme is that in a dire situation, people will not help each other, and he thought that was
that community bit. Man is evil.
Yeah, and he thought no, like people. We would not have society if people didn't gather together and build things together. He wrote a book in response to Lord of the Flies, and it's my favorite book. I think it's just like such a cool like world that he built. So in this world, space travel is not going great. Like they only have, it's kind of like the Expanse where they can only get out to the outer reaches of the solar system. Until the scientist is trying to develop time travel, he opens up this gate and he sees like this lush forest. He grabs a pistol and whatever, and he like rushes through this gate because he thinks he's going to go back to like dinosaur times. And he ends up getting arrested because he's in Brazil. He's waving a pistol around and can't speak Portuguese. So he's discovered how to make gates.
But he just teleported.
He just teleported across the world.
That's amazing.
They figure out how to make teleportation to like the moon or another galaxy. So they've opened up the stars for human. So it's really cool. So it's like the kid lives. He's got his living room and looks out on the Grand Canyon. He's got like a view of the Grand Canyon, but he goes to school in New York. So he just walks down to the portal. There's like a gate from Utah or wherever the Grand Canyon is, Arizona, whatever, to New York, and he goes to high school in New York.
There's something about that, like you mentioned The Expanse. There's something about that era of sci-fi though before, where it's like they didn't need to. It's just like you activate this teleporter and it's got the opening somewhere else. You don't have to like worry about the science of like where did we put down the other doorway. I love that shit.
He does talk with that throughout, like them doing the calibrations, because like it's hard to line it up, and there's a little piece of like the last decimal is up to humans to figure it out. Like the computer can only take them so far, and it's like it's up to the controller to like guess on that last decimal. So there's some stuff that he adds into that, and it's really cool. So it's the
feels
book.
Very Michael Crichton.
Yeah, like I'm sure Michael Crichton's read Heinlein. So he's sitting in like Union Station, where there's portals to all sorts of different places on Earth, and there's also space portals. And so he's sitting there, and like it's funny. You have to like if you want a headphone to listen into like the narrator, you have to pay money for it. So he like throws some coins in, puts the headphones on, and the narrator is explaining what's happening at all these gates. And one of the gates is like it opens up and like a whole bunch of like Chinese immigrants are being forced into another planet, or no, Australia. They're being forced to Australia, and to sink or swim in Australia.
Almost worse.
Yeah, and so it's talking about like these. So it's actually kind of racist. They're talking about them like prodding these Chinese people and stuff, and then another gate opens up, and it's like a whole bunch of cattle from a faraway planet being sent into Earth to feed Earth, and that was really cool. So the high school class that this kid is taking is a survival class of how to survive any planet, how humans can survive out in the frontier, because you're going to need that, and like in order to get certain jobs, you have to take this high school class and pass. And the final exam is they dump you on a planet for a week. They don't tell you what planet. You have to bring your own gear. You can bring whatever you want, whatever guns, like whatever survival equipment, and you're there for a week. While they're there, a star between Earth and this planet blows up, and they can't be retrieved.
Disrupting. Yeah.
So they're there for 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And it's how these it's multiple classes too. It's not just his class that was sent to this planet. Multiple classes. Like some of them are university students. Some people take this class in university. So there's like the dynamic of like the university kids try to disenfranchise the high school kids, and when they start to train their society. Yeah.
Julie's just let us know that she dated a guy once who tried to do that. I'm assuming the survivalist stuff, because he almost died, but then a fisherman fed him. I hope it's not the guy you're currently dating, because I think he's much smarter than that.
It's a fantastic story. I love it to bits. Tunnel in the Sky is what it's called.
Tunnel in the Sky. I was going to say, I want to write that down, because that immediately makes me think of two really distinct older sci-fi things. The first one is like the older setup of like space travel always makes me think of Asimov. I've read exactly 2 Asimov books, because he's incredibly dry. I read the first book of The Foundation. Have you ever touched that?
No.
It's where a lot of like Star Wars is pulled from. All the stuff that is in Flash Gordon is like that era of like space nonsense. There's like the book itself is based on like a tax man trying to like shore up details on why this foundation hasn't been like paying the Empire and getting caught up in a bunch of stuff. And it's like this really dry first half of the book that becomes this really cool, interesting like pseudo like drama between the people. It's very Philip K. Dick, because like there's no action, but like there's like mental like almost like in like a chess anime or something, like when people are like trying to outmaneuver each other vis-a-vis Death Note kind of thing. But at the end he goes like, well, I'm convinced that you are all criminals and I'm going to go back and deal with this, and they just like turn off the thing that's going to send him back, and he's like, wah. They're like, we're very close to finishing what we're working on, just hear us out. And then it cuts away to some other character that we haven't seen for the whole thing to like sting the next book, where he's like he's Han Solo. He's just Han Solo. He's got a gun. He's like got a force field. He's talking to some old man. He's on some planet that's like ruled by a warlord / like black market thing, and it's just like this cool thing. And I was like, I can't bring myself to read the next one, because if I start it and it's back on the taxman shit, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. And so I've never gone back to it. But also make sure to just think of the Ender's Game series, because that's all about like we get to these far distant planets, we kind of go far enough that it's impossible to really, you can communicate over light but you can't travel over light. And so it's just like once you're there, that's a civilization unto its own. And if like say they need to come and reprimand you, it's 2 generations later. And that like we'll be there when we get there, and it's like, so keep your shit in line. It's just like they go over the science of it all, but it's more about philosophy than about science, which I thought was done really well, even though he's a prick. Can't remember his name. He was a piece of shit. You can only have so many Hugo and Nebula awards to hide behind before people go like, oh, you don't care for races and genders that aren't you, do you?
So I'm already at the end of this temple. It's a short little romp, which at the time, like when I first played it was kind of cool that it was so short. Like, you don't expect it to be short. You expect it to be this big, long trudge through this temple. And
if you zoom out and look at this map, this is huge. This is like, if we think about this as a physical building,
this is impressive.
Just ignores architecture. Like, I studied a tiny bit of like AutoCAD and architecture stuff in high school, and like the number of pillars in there, like it all makes sense structurally, but it's like there'd be no reason to build this temple this large, aside from the fact that the people are taller. But it's also like the dungeons we see, especially in video games, it's like, this makes no fucking sense. Why is this 8 levels deep, and like why are there stairs going up like that instead of just having like a riser? Wouldn't it have been easier to build the room and steps? Those are giants.
A lot of staircases. A lot of like early Dungeons and Dragons and running through the dungeon was, I'm convinced, is because Gary Gygax was crazy and wanted just to fill up graph paper as much as he could, and there was no coherence to a dungeon. There wasn't. It was just like this. Okay, this room has 50 goblins. This next room has 3 like eagles. Like, it was just like whatever, right? And there was no like. At the start, it was just kind of like, let's throw crazy monsters. Like, and there's no coherence to it.
That's fair.
I think it's just because Gary Gygax
like the idea of cleaning out a dungeon and like making it a temple over a cavern.
Yeah.
He's a nut bar. He was a nut bar.
Oh, he's still there. It's funny.
There was a super dungeon, I think from like the 2nd edition D&D. The first, like one of the first big things they did after the red box releases for like advanced D&D and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's some mountain. It's something mountain. And it's this immense super dungeon. Like, if you printed it out as like inch wide squares, you could like carpet your house with it.
Jeez.
But they told you what was in like 5% of the rooms.
Yeah.
Because they wanted it to be like, if something this big, there wouldn't be something in every room. And
did Skid talk about this?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it must have been, because they were talking about how the Pathfinder guys always fill a dungeon. They always make it for a reason, have something happen everywhere, because you could skip it, but you might see all of it. Yeah. But like, it makes so much more sense for this shit to be empty. And it's just like, every time I have like, there's a treasure chest and it's locked and it's sealed, it's like, is it though? Is it not just a pile of crap that like, if it was magical it didn't rust away, and if it wasn't, it's like, did we find food? It's like, yeah, you found mold. You could eat it.
Oh, sorry, Mike Dar is calling me. I'll be right back.
No worries. I'll stall.
Hi. I'm just downstairs. Hi, come here.
It's always a mimic. That will still be... Julie, were you with us when we got... Yeah, that would have been one of your first sessions, I think. Like, 2nd or 3rd session when Ian got hit by the mimic. The only time without, like, huge fuckery I've gotten away with a mimic. Because I used them a bunch this past year with one of my groups. And I had to cheat one time to get it to work. Because I realized that they were like... It wouldn't get up if they didn't get near it, but I just went, fuck it, it got up. It's coming after you. Crawls out of a grave. It's a big coffin. Super fun. I just can't believe he stuck his ear to it. I don't know if I've told Eric that story. When he gets back, I'm going to tell Eric that story. Yeah, you thought I made every single thing that we did up. Not the game, but like the story. And to be fair, when you guys joined up, I had still made everything up. I can't? I am a saint. How dare you? Yes. These answers give me no context to what you're referring to from what I said. There is a delay. Oh no, I didn't know Ian as well back then. I think now I would guess it. Ian's also the one who started the Deadpool between all the NPCs that you're all voting on. So there isn't. The delay is in your brain. That's fine. It's late. Go get that back open. So, Julie just reminded me. Have I ever told you about the first time I got a mimic to work on somebody?
No. I want to hear the story, but I gotta go.
We gotta cut off?
Yeah, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. My daughter woke up. She's really scared, so I gotta go.
Well,
gotta be a dad.
They are, hopefully she's okay.
She's just been giving us some trouble lately about like waking up in the middle of the night and being scared for no reason. Even though she got like, tons of lights on her room, so she's freaked. I think she's also freaked out because she couldn't find me for a little while. So I'm down in the basement. She's upstairs. So yeah. So
I haven't seen her in your house.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day soon.
One day, hopefully, once things get back to normal. But I gotta call it quits. Sorry, guys. Thanks so much for coming. She's fine. She's just scared, so I just gotta go up and console her and make sure she's okay. So, thank you so much for coming out. Thanks so much, Liam. I will tell her hi for you. Yeah, man. Take care. Bye.